Welcome back to this special conversation with perhaps one of the finest minds in the financial sector space, Mr. YH Malegam. Well, Mr. Malegam, if you have to apportion blame for the current bad loan mess and the outcry against bad loans, I will give you 4 options like a multiple choice question. Economic slowdown, political ownership of banks, the legal system, and promoters with bad intent. Who is most to blame?
I don't think we can apportion blame to just one or the other. But I'd even add a 5th question, which is that why is it that we are saying that there are a large number of NPAs? Have they really been generated or now? And I think the answer is that NPAs were there, but to a large extent they were not identified. Because of a rather proactive stand which the Reserve Bank has taken in the last 1 or 2 years, more NPAs have been unearthed.
Let me come back to my original question, therefore. Whom do you hold responsible at all for this mess? In the order of importance, is it bad banking? Is it, promoters whose intentions have gone awry after, seeing too much money? Is it the legal system which is preventing people from unearthing, from recovering even after recognizing a bad loan?
I think it's a little difficult to say which is more important than the other. It's a combination of all of these factors. At the root of it, I think if you talk of bad banking, I think the root of it has been too many bankers chasing too few borrowers. And therefore there has been a tendency virtually to line up to offer money. And it's difficult for a borrower then to resist that temptation.
Okay. Well, let's come to answers. What should be the way forward, especially for public sector banks?
As I said, one is, I would suggest that they should concentrate more on cash flows. Number 2, they should, as far as possible, have more lending in the form of loans rather than the form of cash credits and overdrafts. Number 3, they should have covenants and agreements on the basis of which those covenants, they can recall the loans if the covenants have not been met. Number 4, they should look a little more closely at the antecedents of the borrowers, the past history and so on. The 5th factor, I think, where perhaps something more has to be done is early recovery action. Action for recovery should be taken much earlier. In my own view, once you have an NPA, which is where the if you say the loan repayment or the interest repayment is not made within 90 days. If that situation continues for a year, the loan becomes a doubtful loan. Now, it is at that point of time, I think the board of the bank or a committee of the board should take a decision. Should we continue to support the borrower, or should we in fact offer this to an asset reconstruction company? Because if you delay that, then the realizability of that asset itself deteriorates.
Okay. Well, let me come to the current situation. There is a huge public outcry from investigative agencies, politicians, courts against promoters as villains. Do you think this noise is not distinguishing failure from fraud? An airline company everywhere is, a very difficult business. Are we blurring that?
I entirely agree with you. First problem is that there is a tendency to say in hindsight that because the losses occurred, therefore there was something wrong. In any business, losses will occur. A banker has to take certain risks, and as people often say, so long as you ensure that more than 50% of your decisions are right, you are okay. So that is one part. where there are proved cases of diversion of funds, where there are cases where someone has mismanaged an organization, yes, but you must make a distinction between fraud, between inefficiency, which is there, and the situations where external factors are responsible. So whether you look at the steel companies, whether you look at the power companies, these are areas in which maybe the promoters are not entirely at fault.
Do you think the government as owner and competitor is complicating matters? For instance, in Air India could have unlimited credit with BPCL. Air India offers cutthroat rates because the fisc is going to fund them. You know, they don't have to be competitive. Government is not a competitive shareholder. They don't have market discipline. That skews the competitive field.
I am not quite frankly aware of what is happening in the airline industry, but my gut feeling is that just merely because of a competitive airfare, other airlines are not adversely affected. After all, we see other airlines like Indigo and so on, which do run very profitably.
Okay, then finally, one important advice as to how we get out of this rather unfortunate situation.
I think the only advice I can give is, number one, you must be honest enough to recognize whether you have a loss. Number two, that a loss does not disappear only because you don't provide for it in your books. So you recognize the fact that you have a loss, you provide for that loss, you clean up your balance sheet, you improve your systems, and then go forward.
Mr. Malegam, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you a lot.